New Liverpool transfer record. Xavi to Spurs, Messi's India tour turns messy. Barcelona 10 billion takeover rumors, and Alonso's real, another grim watch. We're talking about all that and more today. Friends, this is Football Frenzy, your daily dose of football and a hot roundup of the biggest stories right now. Drop that royal like, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. And as always, enjoy your meal and enjoy the video. Joshua Zirkzee is still very much on Serie A club's radar. And honestly, that makes sense, because his Manchester United chapter hasn't gone the way anyone imagined. He arrived at Old Trafford as one of the brightest attacking talents in Italy after that big season at Bologna. The season where they shocked everyone and got into the Champions League. The move felt logical. Bigger stage, bigger money, bigger pressure. The classic next step. But in the Premier League, he's basically lost his main weapon. That striker instinct, the smell for goals. He's not scoring, he's drifting out of games, and you can see his influence shrinking week by week. Yes, he scored recently against Crystal Palace, but that was his first Premier League goal in exactly a year. For a forward, that's not a slump, that's a siren. And yet the interest from Italy hasn't cooled off at all. Because Italian clubs aren't buying the current version, they're buying the memory of what he looked like at Bologna. The logic is simple. If you've already flourished in Serie A once, there's a real chance you can do it again. Inter, Juventus, Milan, they've all been mentioned. But the most concrete option right now looks like Roma. Corriere dello Sport says Roma's sporting director flew to London right after the Celtic match to push talks forward. Now it comes down to the structure of the deal. Roma want a loan with an option to buy. Classic risk management. United would rather get cash now and reportedly want around 30 million. But United aren't in a bully position here. If the player isn't producing and isn't starting every week, you can't slap crazy demands on the market and expect everyone to smile and pay up. So a loan feels like the realistic outcome. And if he ends up at Roma this winter, look at the situation he walks into. On paper, he'd be Roma's third striker behind Evan Ferguson and Artem Dovbyk. In reality, Roma don't have a stable, reliable, this guy wins us games number 9 right now. Dovbyk is injured, and even before that the output was rough. 2 goals all season. Ferguson has only 1 more, despite playing more minutes. So this move makes sense for both sides. For Zirkzee, reset in a familiar league. For Roma, a real attempt to fix the striker problem. Because right now their attack sometimes looks like a group of center backs who accidentally wandered into the penalty area. 2 days ago, Lionel Messi's India tour kicked off. The plan was huge. 4 cities, appearances, events, plus the unveiling of a statue in his honor, reportedly the tallest footballer statue in the world. We talked about it in the last episode, but instead of a clean football celebration, the first stop brought frustration. Messi's first city was Kolkata, where he was supposed to greet fans at a stadium. Interest was massive, tickets sold out early, and reports say the crowd was well over 100,000. People weren't expecting him to play a match, but they were hoping for something. A real moment, a bit of interaction, a couple touches of the ball, a wave that actually feels personal. Instead, Messi was there for around 20 minutes, surrounded by security and officials. He walked the pitch, acknowledged the crowd, and left quickly. No show, no on-field moment most people could even see properly. And the reaction was predictable. Social media got flooded with angry posts. Fans said they spent serious money and traveled long distances and basically got a distant glimpse. Then it escalated, and this part is the worst. There were reports of damage at the stadium after people lost their heads. Infrastructure, cladding, even parts of the pitch. Videos started circulating fast. Now, to be clear, if organizers overpromise and underdeliver, fans have every right to be disappointed. But wrecking a stadium is never the answer. You're not punishing Messi. You're punishing your own city and your own football community. Messi's tour is still expected to continue to the remaining cities. But now the story has an ugly aftertaste. This is what happens when logistics don't match expectations. Either you reduce the number of stops, or you give each stop enough time to feel real. If not, you get the same result: disappointment, chaos, and people feeling like they got played. Barcelona's thinking around the Lewandowski replacement has clearly changed. A few months ago, it felt like new striker is priority number one. Now, the situation looks different, for three reasons. First, Lewandowski himself has softened his stance. El Chiringuito reports he's open to an extension on new terms, meaning a real pay cut. For Barca, that matters more than any rumor because their wage situation is still tight. Second, Ferran Torres has stepped up. He's already on 11 La Liga goals, second in the scoring race behind Mbappe. Ferran still isn't a classic number 9, but when someone is finishing like that, it buys you time. Third, financially, Barca still aren't back. Camp Nou revenue helps, sure, but it doesn't erase debt and doesn't magically fix their wage cap issues. Big moves still likely require big sales, and one name has basically dropped out of the picture: Dusan Vlahovic. The reasons are pretty straightforward. Output, 6 league goals, very high wages, around 12 million euros net, and injury risk, especially after a serious injury that reportedly keeps him out for months. So what's the new direction? More and more, it looks like Barca could go into the next window without buying a striker at all, because the real emergency is at the back. With Inigo Martinez gone and Araujo going through a really tough mental health situation, the center-back depth is thin. Gerard Martin is improving, and he deserves credit. But if you're Barcelona, trying to compete at the highest level, you can't build your entire foundation on hope he grows fast. So limited resources might go to center-back first, not attack. Now, you can never fully rule out the Laporta factor. Laporta loves a headline. He's pulled levers before, he's survived storms before, and he's not allergic to risk. He might decide to sell someone like Rafinha, even if it looks politically insane. But right now, the most logical path is pragmatic. Stabilize the defense first, and only then chase a superstar forward. Liverpool might be heading for a new club record again, and it's linked to one thing: life after Salah. Even if there's been a public peace with Arne Slot, the vibe around Mohamed Salah still feels like a goodbye is coming sooner rather than later. After the Brighton match, his body language, the way he acknowledged the stands, made a lot of people read it as a farewell moment. And once you remove Salah from the right wing, the depth chart gets uncomfortable fast. If we set Federico Chiesa aside, Liverpool's right side suddenly looks empty. So the club is scanning the market. Some names being floated are solid players, but they're not that level. And that's the key point. Salah isn't just production, he's an era. If you replace him, you can't replace him with decent. You need someone who can become iconic. That's why the Michael Olise idea won't go away. Reports pushing it say Liverpool see Olise as someone who could become the new face of the attack. The issue is obvious. Bayern have no reason to sell a player who's already settled, producing and influencing results. If Bayern name a price, it's going to be monster, and the number being floated is over 150 million euros. That would be a statement. And it would also mean Liverpool potentially break England's transfer record again. Maybe for the third time in half a year, depending on how you count it. And if Liverpool actually go through with something like that, it's a very clear message. They're not preparing to survive the end of the Salah era. They're trying to launch the next era with the same ambition. Now, there's a scary headline making the rounds: that Argentina could somehow be removed from the World Cup because of investigations into federation leadership. Let's be careful here. Yes, reports say there's an investigation around AFA leadership and that law enforcement actions have been taken as part of a wider anti-corruption push in the country. And yes, FIFA can step in when federations get into governance crises, but jumping straight to Argentina will be banned is still a massive leap. That would be a nuclear-level outcome. And those are rare. What is real, though, is the threat this kind of chaos creates. It drags the national team into politics and paperwork when they should be focused on football. And it puts huge stress on players and staff. And if this ever escalated, even the possibility, it would be brutal for world football. Messi missing his last World Cup because of boardroom drama would be one of the darkest endings imaginable. So, keep an eye on it. Don't panic. And don't treat the most extreme outcome as confirmed unless it actually happens. There's also a separate governance crisis story being mentioned around Suriname, with blocked accounts and the risk of suspension if things don't get resolved, which shows the same lesson. Bad leadership can erase years of work for players who did nothing wrong. The Premier League title race keeps accelerating. Right now, you can talk about three real contenders: Arsenal, Manchester City, Aston Villa. Arsenal played Wolves, bottom of the league. Everyone expected a clean, boring 2-0. Instead, Arsenal didn't score a single goal themselves and still won. How? Wolves basically did the work for them. 1 goal into David Raya's net and 2 own goals. If Arsenal had dropped points there, it would have been a disaster headline, especially with their squad issues. But they got the win and stayed top. Then City went away to Crystal Palace, and that match was weird in its own way. Palace created over 2.0 XG and still couldn't beat the keeper. City created just over 1.0 XG, got a penalty, and scored 3 times. One of those games where the scoreboard and the eye test are living in different universes. And Villa, they're still right there. 1 point off City, they beat West Ham, but made it way harder than it needed to be. West Ham scored in 29 seconds, the fastest goal of the season. Villa equalized, conceded again, and then Morgan Rogers dropped a brace to save it. After 16 rounds, the order stayed the same. Everyone just added points, and the pressure keeps rising. Tottenham lost again, and not to an elite opponent. Nottingham Forest under Espirito Santo are better than people think. Sure, more organized, more confident. But Spurs losing this way, with so little resistance, is what fuels the panic. Thomas Frank tried to explain it after the match. This takes time. And he's not wrong. Rebuilds don't happen overnight. But modern football doesn't care about good explanations if results keep bleeding. So the noise is growing. Frank out. New coach in. Someone who can shift the mood fast. And the name that keeps showing up? Xavi Hernandez. Spurs reportedly like the idea because Xavi has big club experience, a reputation for stabilizing messy situations, and a clear willingness to work with young players, something Spurs desperately need. Frank is still in the job, for now, but when Xavi's name is in every insider thread, it usually means the ground under the current coach is cracking. Now the wildest headline of the day. Barcelona being sold for 10 billion euros. Here's the context. Barca's financial problems haven't disappeared. Camp Nou revenue helps, but it doesn't erase the debt mountain or the constant wage cap headaches. And because Barca are member-owned, the Socios model, they don't have the same emergency owner cash injection option that Premier League clubs do. That's why 2 paths always come up. Slow, painful recovery through restructuring, levers, sales, and constant tightrope walking, the unthinkable option, selling the club. A big sale of a star like Rafinha or Yamal could bring massive money, but it's a political grenade for Laporta. Fans might not forgive it. So, the takeover rumors keep resurfacing, and one French journalist is reporting that Saudi-linked investors could be ready to offer 10 billion euros, with claims that a chunk would immediately go toward debt. To be clear, right now, this is still reported, not done. But the reason it doesn't sound like pure fantasy anymore is simple. Modern football has become a competition of budgets, and tradition alone doesn't pay bills. Xabi Alonso is still Real Madrid's coach for now. Before the Alavés match, Spanish media really pushed the narrative. If Real don't win, the dismissal process begins. So you'd expect Real to show up angry, sharp, locked in. They didn't. Yes, they won. Yes, Rodrigo scored again. But if you watch the match, and not just the scoreline, the bigger question is, where is the football? The first half was fine. Real got into the box, applied pressure, even looked like the better team. Then the second half turned into aimless chaos. The ball floated around midfield. Turnovers, random decisions, no structure, no rhythm. And for long stretches, Alavés looked more aggressive, more focused, more emotionally invested. In a match where the coach's job is supposedly on the line, that's alarming. And AS had an interesting note before the game, that the board would judge Alonso not only by result, but by the quality, whether the team is fixing errors and taking steps forward. If you judge by that standard, you can't relax after this win, not even close. And I'll say it clearly, this isn't about hating Real or pushing some weird agenda. It's about watching the match and asking why a squad with this level of talent looks so flat. Why can't Bellingham, Güler, Tchouaméni control tempo? Why does the team look like it's waiting for one moment of individual magic instead of building anything consistent? That's on the players and it's on the coach. And it's why nothing can be ruled out in the coming days. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and a huge thank you to everyone who's subscribing. Seriously, I appreciate it. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. This was Football Frenzy, your daily dose of football. Peace to your home, and joga bonito, friends.